I'll now call the Iberia Parish Council meeting to order. It's May 5th, 2021. The time is 6:01. We'll start the prayer tonight with Scott Rossonay, and Mr. Curtis Riggs will lead us in the pledge. Mr. Rossonay.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Mr. Riggs, you can state your name and the branch of service you represent.
Curtis Riggs, United States Navy, Vietnam War veteran. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Riggs, thank you for being here and thank you for your service.
It's a privilege and honor.
Good.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please initiate the roll call.
Tommy Pollard.
Here.
Michael Landry.
Here.
Brad Davis.
Here.
Lloyd Brown.
Here.
Warren Gotcherson.
Here.
Natalie Broussard.
Here.
Paul Landry.
Here.
James Stronghold.
Here.
Scott Rossonay.
Here.
Eugene Olivier.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Lady Brown. Marty Tronha.
Here.
Chad Machurin.
Here.
We have 13 members in the quorum. Man, that's kind of quick, Mr. Pollard. Okay, moving on to public comments. The policy allows for 3 minutes. I have a motion by Mr. Pollard.
Second.
And I have a second by Councilwoman Broussard. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. And the vote is unanimous. We're now into public comments. Number 1, Madam Clerk.
Comments from the general public on non-agenda items.
We did not receive any cards or requests by Friday, so we'll be moving on to number 2, Madam Clerk.
Comments from the general public on agenda items. A, Dean and Catherine Watney to address the council regarding Mental Health Month, which is May 2021.
Good evening. It seems like a long time. But we're happy to be back here again. And, you know, Catherine and I formed this mental health initiative, the nonprofit, about 5 years ago. And it is, of course, to raise the awareness of mental health. And I think we're probably doing a pretty good job because we've been here 5 years now. And I can tell, you can say, oh, there's Dean and Catherine, it must be Mental Health Month. So we are here again for that reason. Our initiative does, its main purpose is to educate and to reduce the stigma of mental health, mental illness. But this year we're kind of concentrating on mental health because going through the COVID pandemic is brought to light that we all need to take care of our mental health. We take care of our physical health, and we need to think about taking care of our mental health as well. And the message is to reduce your stress and be kind to yourself. And our initiative in that regard has quite a few videos that we've had over the last few years, and that we've put on there, and there are some that are pretty appropriate to the COVID issue and how to handle stress and how to handle children's stress as they deal with everything they've gone through with school and education. We have a very good series of videos on our Facebook page by Dr. Spell, who is a child psychologist, and she gives very good tips about how to handle children coping with these issues. And to continue those efforts, I'm going to yield my other 3 minutes to my wife, Catherine, who's going to tell about a project that we have coming up right now.
Glad to be here with you all. You have on your in front of you a flyer for an event that we're having. It's called the Bayou Side Run, 5K run, 1 mile walk. It's a partnership that we have. We're putting it on with Heart for Iberia. And it was supposed to happen last May, and of course everything was canceled. So we came together again, and we're collaborating on this effort. It'll be May 22nd, 8 a.m. downtown New Iberia. That's Saturday. And at this time, we have about 200 runners signed up. So we're really happy about that. We're putting on this event to spotlight the importance of good mental health and to raise awareness of that fact, and also to raise funds for our work with the Iberia Mental Health Initiative. We've gotten really good support. Some of you are giving us tremendous support, and we do appreciate that. So if you can spread the word and come, hope we'll see you on May 22nd. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, number 3.
Comments from the general public for a public hearing on the adoption of the 2021 millages.
We did not receive any comment cards on there. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on the millages? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to go back into regular session. Have a motion by Scott Rossonay and a second by Michael Landry. Mr. Rossonay? Mr. Rossonay waves. Mr. Landry waves. Any discussion, members? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to reports from finance and administrative actions. Number 1, Madam Clerk.
Number 1, balance sheet for March 2021 on request. Number 2, budget report for March 2021 on request.
I believe you should have received that in your emails. Moving on to reports from Parish or other governmental agencies. There are none. Public Works reports. There are none. Special business. Madam Clerk.
Presentation of certificate to Iberia Parish Government's Purchasing Officer Michael Broussard, who completed the National Association of Counties High Performance Leadership Academy, a 12-week online program with a robust curriculum.
Mr. Sonia.
Yes, Mike, please.
If he can come to the podium, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Mike's already got the certificates and stuff. First of all, is it on?
I got me. That's on me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
Brian, man, I mean, come on.
I'm working on this.
I first wanted to mention that we owe a great deal of gratitude to NACO. That organization does a lot for regional governments every day. I think the networking opportunities there for us to share experiences throughout the country is important. It's amazing when you talk to people from other entities. They suffer the same, problems that we do. The important part is sharing the solutions, but also the failures that they go through to try to solve those problems. NACO provided the scholarship for Mike to be able to take this program, and in my opinion, Mike did a really good job. He not only took the challenge, but he excelled at it. When you look at the 5 practical skills that the program focuses on, it is without a doubt that Mike embodies everything that they put into the program. And those 5 skill sets are leading, organizing, collaborating, communicating, and delivering. Mike requires very little supervision. He's self-motivated. He's on time. Projects ranging from roofs to roads. If it happens in this parish, he's involved with it. He keeps us on track and out of trouble, which I can tell you I appreciate a lot. He's not only organized, not only in setting up projects, but at the completion of the projects, but most importantly, and much to Kim Segura's appreciation, at the audit process. He's responsible for keeping all the documents for the contracts and those things, and he does a really good job of maintaining records. Much better than I do, I can assure you that. He collaborates with everyone involved in projects that we get involved with. If it happens within the parish, there's a good chance that it went through his office. Mike communicates with everyone involved in purchasing or contracts, from buying light bulbs to building roads. If you are involved with parish government, you will communicate with Mr. Broussard. He communicates directly with very little left to chance. And if you take a chance and don't follow his communication, he will, in a very direct way, help you to understand what the initial communication was. He delivers without a doubt when given a task. He's on time, on target, and on budget. On a personal note, I depend on our staff a lot, and I really lean on Mike quite a bit.
Good.
He never disappoints. I've come to trust and respect him as an employee, but most importantly as a friend. So congratulations, Mike. Great job.
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank y'all very much. I'm blown away, Scott. That was very kind words. Yeah, back to the curriculum. It was a joy to participate in that. It was like it said, it's a 12-week course. I was with like 60 other peers from all levels of government throughout the country, and the faculty was comprised of like Fortune 500 CEOs, professors, and even General Colin Powell was a member of the faculty. So yeah, it was probably the best professional development training I've experienced in my career. So yeah, very applicable things that I learned, and it's definitely going to benefit in me and my daily responsibilities. So thanks for all that.
Are there any comments for Mr. Broussard? Mr. Napier is recognized.
Mike, congratulations, and we benefit from you. Thank you for taking that course, and thank you for not only keeping Scott out of trouble, but probably all of us a time or two. So, I mean, really, thank you for all you do for the parish, taxpayers, this council, the administration. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. I appreciate that,
Thank
Brian.
you.
Thank you.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from District Marty's recognized.
Oh, damn.
It's 2 trials, man. Hard.
Thank you for the projects we worked on and keeping them within budget, especially the bridges. I definitely appreciate your help on that, and thank you very much for your service here.
You're welcome. Thanks, Marty.
Mr. Trahone yields back. Mr. Olivier is recognized.
Mike, congratulations. Myself, I'm involved with NACO as well, and the things I've learned and the ideas I've gained from being part of NACO and the committees I serve. And those have been beneficial to me as well as beneficial to the parish. So, great job. And I was trying to get that Scotty to somebody else, but you got it first. But thank you. Great work.
Thank y'all very much.
Councilman Olivier reserves. Anyone else? Mr. Broussard, thank you for your dedication to Iberia Parish government. We appreciate you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Warren. I
Moving
appreciate
on
it.
to council member announcements. Council members? Any announcements? I'm shocked. Okay.
I'm gonna give y'all a break.
Moving on to parish president announcements. Mr. Sonier, you're recognized.
I think we gave a report a week ago, so looking at the agenda this evening, it looks like y'all have quite a bit to discuss. We're just going to go ahead and pass this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not
Thank you,
gonna
Mr.
let-
I get to go
I'm not
home
gonna let
early,
him
too.
off that easy.
Appreciate you, Mr. Sonier.
Oh.
I'm not gonna let him off that easy.
I do believe, Mr. Sonier, we may have a question for you.
Warren, can you turn my mic off?
No,
The gentleman from District
I'm not
11
letting you
is
off that
recognized.
easy, Scott.
Go ahead, Brian.
So, Scott, I mean, this was gonna be for Mr. Richard, but you sitting in that
I can move
seat.
back over,
No,
Brian.
no, you're in a good spot. So, I did get a couple calls this week about the mask mandate for the courthouse, about people visiting and also people working here. I made a call to a legislative friend of mine in Baton Rouge, and he told me that at the Capitol, it's voluntary. If you want to wear a mask, you can wear one, but it's not mandated. So I'm just wondering, have y'all thought about, are y'all gonna, kind of ease that up and let it be voluntary? I was called, so I want to try to get an answer.
Well,
if y'all thought about that.
I know Larry's been communicating with some other parish presidents to try to figure out, they want to do things together, I guess. So right now, I'm not at liberty to make any announcements. He hasn't communicated to me what his decision is at this point. And obviously, he's in Baton Rouge right now, trying to get some money for it. So I would ask Brian that you contact him directly, or if you would like to, I can speak to him, and at some point, I'm assuming he's going to put something out in writing as to the direction he wants to head in.
So right now, the mandate is still in place for everyone.
Yeah,
coming
it's
in
social
and doing the
distancing. We're
day.
still
Yeah.
practicing that. Yeah,
With the mask thing.
yeah. Within, I know within common areas, we're still practicing that.
Okay.
In our offices, we're good. I mean, I can speak for myself. I've been vaccinated, which was a good experience, other than one afternoon. But
Yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, I feel more comfortable, and I think things are opening up as we go, and as the percent positivity continues to decline, hopefully that continues to decline, and we don't see any upticks.
Right.
It looks like we'll just be phasing as we go.
Well,
But again, I can't speak for him
If
in
you
regards
talk
to
to him
that.
before I do, just
Okay.
I was asking, and I had a couple calls, and I just want to try to get an answer for him. If in the near future that was being considered to lift that to
Okay.
voluntary.
I will pass that on.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Moving on to consent agenda items for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 77, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
A resolution proclaiming the month of May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Iberia Parish.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard and a second by Councilman Paul Landry. Ms. Broussard.
I just want to thank Dean and Catherine for everything y'all have done. In my profession, I see how much mental health does have an impact on our community, on our families, and so I appreciate all the efforts that you put into mental health awareness in y'all's initiative.
Ms. Broussard yields back. Mr. Landry. Mr. Landry waves. Is there any other discussion? Certainly. Mr. Saunier is recognized.
The proclamation reads, May is Mental Health Month. You got me back on.
God darn, I took you off.
I'm only good for your questions. I don't understand how that works. May is Mental Health Month. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans face challenges in life that can impact their mental health, especially during a pandemic, and whereas we all share the responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention and treatment efforts. Therefore, I, M. Larry Richard, in lieu, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Iberia Parish. As the president of Iberia Parish, I will also call upon citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Iberia Parish to commit our parish to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health. The steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. And it's signed, M. Larry Richard, Iberia Parish Government.
Did you want to present that to him now?
I would love
I've been there.
Good job, Dean.
If I will, the second by Mr. Paul Andrew, would you make that unanimous, ask for a request for unanimous?
Yes, I'm requesting unanimous.
If there's any, is there any objection to the unanimous call? Hearing no objection, there's a second for unanimous. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank y'all.
Moving on to ordinances introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 5104, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for General Parish, formerly known as General Alimony, which is levied on all taxable property in the rural areas of the parish only at the adjusted rate of 4.05 mils for 2021.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Broussard. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Ms. Broussard?
Wait.
Ms. Broussard waves. Is there any discussion, members? Hearing no discussion, Councilman Olivier is recognized.
I'd like to comment before we start voting on the millages.
Certainly.
Tonight, we are to consider the roll fall to the millages. The voters of Iberia Parish approved the millages rate years ago. The administration has worked very hard to reduce the budget since I was elected in 2015. They have cut spending, streamlined departments, reduced staff, and worked hard to secure state and federal funding. In the upcoming millage, we have the opportunity to give the administration additional funds to hopefully give some of the backlog of services we provide for our citizens. An example of backlogs I have right here with some 30 pages of work order that I'm still trying to get completed through the administration. A 2.5 change in our millage will bring in about $127,216 across 5 funds, excluding the library. There are roughly 33,000 tax notices sent out in Iberia Parish each year. If you average out revenue gain equals to about $3.85 per tax notice sent out to each individual. Now let's take for granted that some of the individual properties or assessed values are more than the others. So some may pay $2, some may pay $10, some may pay nothing because they might be tax exempt. But this is basically an average. For myself, my own personal property, my market value of my house is $158,000. After home exempt, I will pay an additional $3.16 in taxes if we increase it 0.25 to the roll forward millage rate. I know many of us vote on the principle on taxes, you know, no taxes, no taxes, no taxes. But my principle is to service the people of the parish by getting the service done that they request. The ditches clean, the buildings repaired, and so forth and so on. So I'm going to really support an increased roll forward in these measures, except for the library. And I do understand years ago we talked about the library and use up some of the fund balance. I'll stick to that for another few more years, and we'll see how it goes after the 2 new libraries, 2 replacement libraries can get online. But anyway, that's my comment. I hope everyone consider the increase in the millage rate to the roll forward to the max. I'm sure the administration can use additional revenue, and it's not really that big of an impact for the taxpayers if we do so, because it's spread out between the so many taxing individuals. Thank you, Warren.
The councilman reserves. Councilman Napier is recognized.
To go to what Eugene was saying, and you're right, Eugene. The one thing that you'd mentioned a week ago when we were talking about the nonprofits that really stuck with me all week was that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd mentioned that that's one of the reasons why we need to push the general alimony to its max so that we can support the nonprofits. And I'm not going to drag this on, but again, my position is that really what parish government does? To me, that's redistribution. So I disagree with pushing it forward if that's why. I mean, you didn't mention it tonight, but you did mention it in your comment that we need to max it out so that we will have money to support the nonprofits. That stuck with me all week, and that's one of the reasons why I'm going to support staying millage neutral through the night. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Napier reserves. Councilman Michael Landry. Just before you go, Mr. Landry, I just want to remind the members that we're in regular order, that if you're going to use debate through the chair and not direct the person. Mr. Landry is recognized.
Okay, and I'm not, I'm going to present this to everybody. I've heard people on this council say that we won't go up on millages or taxes because we taxing out the poor people. And I would say that was going to be quiet tonight, but we got people leaving Iberia Parish going to Lafayette, going to St. Martin, St. Mary, St. Landry, Vermilion, and it's not behind taxes because Iberia Parish is 58th, 59th in the state. So anybody can tell me if they're not moving for taxes. I think it's the way of life. and they taxing these people to make their life better. And we can sit down here and we can debate, but I think we all need to give the administration in this parish a fighting chance, because we've come through some hard times with COVID, and from 2016 to right now, I've heard every excuse in the world not to go up on nothing. And I came in a year after y'all, after most of this council. And it's time that we give it a fighting chance. And if you're gonna sit down and say we taxing the poor people out, something's wrong. Everybody need to question themselves, because $4, $5, $10, $20 a year is not gonna make or break anybody. And I'm not saying that I want to give it all to non-profits. I say we need to help this parish out to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Mr. Landry yields back. Anyone else? Mr. Olivier is recognized.
I want to clarify my remark last week. My intent was not to use the increase in the millages to give to nonprofit. It was just an example. That's all I put out there. The example was that if we had additional funding, it would have been a little easier for us to maybe give to nonprofits. But my intent was not to increase the millages to give it to nonprofit. My intent was to give the administration the dollars they need to get the service work done for this parish that the citizen requests us to do every year. Thank you.
Councilman Olivier yields back. Anyone else? Councilman Rawson is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I've only been here 2 years, okay? And from what I've seen so far, it's the same, and I'll go to your point here. Either raise taxes, lower taxes, raise millages, lower millages. I have yet to hear somebody challenge the status quo. Why are we doing it the same way? Is there a way that we can change this structure and include roads somehow? Because what I hear is the roads. Why are we building this? Why are we buying this? We're not doing roads. Now, yeah, most people don't understand that the structure does not allow it. I agree. Most people don't know that. When they voted, they are all direct. But we have not had a discussion, other than maybe me and 1 or 2 people, about changing the status quo and changing the structure and bring roads into the picture. That's my only point. Thank you.
Councilman Rawson yields back. Councilman Michael Landry is recognized.
I sat on the millage committee and the tax committee for a whole year, and nothing was brought back to this council. Paul was on it, Natalie was on it, recommendations was made, they were pulled back. So, I mean, I don't think we can put it out. I think the public, in a lot of ways, don't sit down here and go through what we go through. But we went through a whole year, Paul can tell you, and nobody could understand it. So we're trying to make, this is not an example, but I think this parish has to move forward, and we can't sit on our hands and think it's going to move forward the way it is right now. And I yield.
Councilman Landry yields. Is there anyone else? Councilman Marty Trahan is recognized.
How y'all doing? Scott, Mike, I've been saying that since I got here. Okay, before y'all. We need to sit down. We did the millages, okay? And we maxed out 4 out of 5 of them at that time, okay? What we need to do is look at a sales tax, the tax part of it, and see what is there if we got room to go up. You know, that we can put a sales tax on roads, you know, on gasoline, whether we got to go to the state legislature, to the U.S., you know, Congress, you know, that's where we need to sit and have that discussion. Because I don't feel the homeowners need to have a millage put on them for roads, okay? It's everybody driving a vehicle that goes through this parish that are going to pay a 1 cent or 2 cents gas tax that's dedicated, that we can't use for nothing else, to do roads. I'd like to have that discussion and see where we can go with that. Thank y'all. Okay.
Mr. Trahan yields back. Just to remind you members, try to keep it germane with the main motion if you can. Anyone else? Hearing no one else, no other discussion. It's going to be roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 5105, introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for General Parish, formerly known as General Alimony, which is levied on all taxable property in the rural areas of the parish only, at the adjusted rate of 4.05 mils, and authorizing an increase of said rate to 4.12 mils to be levied for 2021.
Do I have a
To
motion?
roll forward.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown and a second by Councilman Eugene Olivier. Mr. Brown.
That's it. I don't even make this. I would say that we need raise in this in order for us to continue to give the service to our people that voted for this tax. Not us. And we have to show them that they can trust us to do what we need to do. Trust is a must.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Councilman Brown reserves. Councilman Olivier.
Again, I would like to ask my colleague to support this resolution because I think the administration can really use this additional funding. And I think it's a wise decision for all taxpayers in this parish. Thank you.
Councilman Olivier yields back. Anyone else? If you want to yield up to him. Sir, we're already out of public.
I know, and I didn't realize that I couldn't go to the normal back, I had to run all the way around, so that put me late. And I came here specifically to say a few things I think is going to
Okay, hold on one second, sir. Council members, you heard it. If there's any objection to allowing him at least 3 minutes, I understand he was kind of locked out the building. Would there be any objection to allow him 3 minutes? No back and forth, but allow him to make a statement. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes, sir. There won't be any back and forth, but you can go ahead and state your.
I think what I'm going to say.
We usually don't do this, so feel privileged.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank Brian for just to stay neutral, and you had some fantastic ideas. Okay. And what I discovered, because I do get this every weekend thing, is that.
Sir, can you state your name and address for the record?
Okay. My name's Ron Landry, and I own property in Smith Road in Lydia. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I've been following this a while, but I'm kind of nervous too because I didn't do this in a long time. But Youngberry Parish is losing over $2 million a year on exemptions. We have a council member that actually, because of the TIF district, was supposed to bring extra money and none of this would be discussed again. Obviously, that didn't work out too well, but the bottom line is you're looking for more money. I don't think it's fair that you exempt the city and everybody else, like you said, that drives a car. I got the shakes, I'm nervous, excuse me.
Okay.
But Youngberry is losing over $2 million a year on tax exemption. And John Bel Edwards, as much as I don't care for him too much, he just passed a resolution that the council can actually get away from this TIF board, this tax board in Baton Rouge, and go around it legally to get this money that Youngberry deserves and that you could use for all these ideas that you have. I would suggest that you take up his idea and do what he asks, and this is the way to do it, is to get these people that are exempt, that's been doing it for years, and there's your extra money, and you wouldn't have to take, like he was saying, the poor people. We got people that's got one little square taking every penny they got to sustain what they have, and what COVID did to the whole country is a travesty. Okay, because all your big box stores made billions of dollars while your mom and pop, and I know you own a business, your daddy owns a business, and I know you'll all struggle, but it's not fair that the poor or the people that's trying to make a living has to be taxed when you got these people that's making millions of dollars paying no taxes. So I'm going to leave this, and you can look at it. I would suggest you do check it out, and this would be your key to more money.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for being here, sir.
Brian, thank you again, and I love your ideas. You did good.
Good. Members, I appreciate no objection on that, allowing him to be heard. Did I have anyone else had discussion? Okay. Hearing no discussion on 5105, we'll move to the roll call vote. Those in favor, members, will signify by saying, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. Roll call, members. Those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk, those in opposition is James Strahon, Natalie Broussard, Warren Goshishan, Brian Napier, and Scott Rossonay. Those in the affirmative, Mr. Lloyd Brown, Tommy Pollard, Michael Landry, Paul Landry, Brad Davis, Marty Trahan, and Eugene Olivier. And Chad Mathurin, I'm sorry. If I do the calculations right, that's 6 yeas and 5 nays, correct? Is it 8 to 5? I'm sorry. This is why we need, be nice to have my keyboard, us voting on our machines. Again, it's 8 to 5, 8 yeas and 5 nays. That motion fails. Moving on to summary 5106, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk?
Wouldn't that pass?
No, ma'am. You needed 10 votes.
Wait, no, wait. Okay, never mind.
8 to 5, right?
Yes. Okay. An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the exempted municipalities, formerly known as criminal tax, which is levied on all taxable property in the municipalities only at the adjusted rate of 2.02 mils for 2021. This would require 8 votes. Note, this millage rate cannot be more than half of the general parish millage rate.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown, second by Councilman Michael Landry. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Mr. Landry. Mr. Landry waves. Any discussion, members? Hearing no discussion, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Without opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to summary number 5107, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for the exempted municipalities, formerly known as criminal tax, which is levied on all taxable property in the municipalities only at the adjusted rate of 2.02 mils and authorizing an increase of said rate to 2.06 mils to be levied for 2021. Roll forward 10 votes.
I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown, a second by Councilman Michael Landry. Mr. Brown.
Can't do it.
We'd have, because it can't be more than half, right?
Right.
Okay, so, Mr. Brown, since you were the lead motion, would you like to make a motion to delete? Mr. Brown makes a motion to delete. Is it okay with the second? Mr. Landry seconds it. Is there any discussion on the deletion? Hearing none. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion passes unanimously. That is now deleted. Moving on to summary number 5108, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public library system, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at a rate of 5.76 mils for 2021.
Do I have a motion?
8 votes.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown, a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Mr. Napier?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the language to revert the adjusted rate at 5.
Mr. Napier, before you do that, I'd ask for discussion on the main motion first, and then I'll entertain the second.
Okay, I want to change.
Would you like to yield first?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Napier yields. Is there any discussion on the main motion here on the library fund?
What is it set at now?
5.7.
No.
Well, now it's 3.5.
3.5 previous year. Anyone on discussion before the substitute? Mr. Napier, on your amendment?
So I want to make a substitute to, you want to revert the adjusted rate from 5.76 to 3.50, the current rate as it is now.
I have a second by a substitute motion by Mr. Napier and a second by Mr. Marty Trahan. Is there any discussion on the substitute motion? Hearing no discussion, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion passes unanimously. I'm sorry. Mr. Brown, okay. Madam Clerk, I apologize. Everyone voted in the affirmative except for Mr. Brown voted against the motion. The motion still passes. Moving on to summary number 5109, introduced by the clerk of the council.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for the public library system, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at an adjusted rate of 5.76 mils and authorizing an increase of said rate to 5.85 mils to be levied for 2021. Roll forward, 10 votes.
Do I have a motion? Okay, let's open it up at least for discussion, then we can move to delete. I have a motion by Councilman Marty Trahan, a second by Councilman Eugene Olivier. Mr. Trahan. Mr. Olivier.
I'd like to make a substitute motion to change the millage rate to 4.00, making the library revenue neutral.
Let me hold that first. I have one that's pending on the floor. I'll give you the second on that. Is there anyone on the main motion that wants to discuss as it is now? Hearing none. Mr. Trahan, you had a substitute motion, is that correct? Yes. You want to state your substitute motion?
I want to state the motion to delete.
Mr. Trahan has a motion on the floor to delete. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilwoman Broussard. Is there any discussions on the deletion? Hearing none. Those in favor, roll call members, those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, those in the affirmative, will raise your hand, please. Laney, I have Mr. Trahan, Marty Trahan, Mr. James Trahan, Mr. Brad Davis, Miss Natalie Broussard, Warren Goshenson, I'm sorry, Chad Macharan, Brian Napier, Paul Landry, and Scott Rawsonay are voting in the affirmative. Those opposed, I have Mr. Brown, Mr. Pollard, Mr. Michael Landry, and Mr. Olivier. Motion to delete passes. Moving on to summary number 5110, introduced by the clerk of the council.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public building maintenance, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at an adjusted rate of 4.68 mils for 2021.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Brown and a second by Councilman Michael Landry. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Mr. Landry. Mr. Landry waves. Is there any discussion, members? Hearing no discussion, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 5111, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for public building maintenance, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at an adjusted rate of 4.68 mils and authorizing an increase of said rate to 4.76 mils to be levied for 2021.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilmember Lloyd Brown.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Eugene Olivier. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Mr. Olivier.
I would like to suggest that we go ahead and roll this millage forward. I know we got a lot of work at the jail to get done and other public buildings. So I would appreciate if y'all support this resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Olivier yields back. Any other discussion, members? Hearing no discussion, those roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk, those voting in opposition, I have Scott Rawsonay, Brian Napier, Warren Goshenson, Natalie Broussard, Councilman James Trahan, and Chad Macharan. That motion fails to be adopted. Did you get that, Laney?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to summary number 5112, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public health unit, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 2.08 mils for 2021.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Eugene Olivier. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Mr. Olivier?
Wave.
Mr. Olivier waves. Discussion, members?
Yes.
Mr. Trahan is recognized.
How is that fund budget for the public health?
Ms. Segura, if you can step to the mic, please.
I'm not 100% certain exactly the fund balance number, like ending fund balance. I know that there is a current budgeted deficit for 2021. So we are operating with more expenses than we are with revenues.
So we would have to raise it. To come, how much, the question I'm asking, we in the red.
Mhm.
With us raising it, would we come into the black or come close to?
I don't think
No
so.
way.
Not enough.
The extra revenue is.
Oh, no, I'm just, you know, to where,
Yeah, it's 19,000.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, our deficit's probably more than 19,000.
okay.
Yeah.
So we need to come up on it. Yes, all right.
Councilman Trahan, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Trahan yields back. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 5113, introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for the public health unit, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 2.08 mills and authorizing an increase of said rate to 2.11 mills to be levied for 2021.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard and a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Councilwoman Broussard?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask everyone to support this. I think, you know, we're going down in the library bond fund, so to max this, we'll still keep it at millage neutral. And, you know, last year or year before, I don't remember which year it was, but we authorized to hire a social worker for the health unit. And, you know, they've been doing a really good job. And, you know, what better time to support mental health and do our part. We just voted Mental Health Month for May. So what better way to show support of the Mental Health Initiative and Mental Health Month, but to help fund the mental health. And I think it's a good use of our money, because if we can get some help for the mental health in our community, that's going to save us money in the long run with the jail and all areas of our community. So I'll ask my colleagues to support this. It'll still keep us millage neutral when we go down on summary 5116 for the public library system.
Ms. Broussard yields back. Mr. Napier? I guess Mr. Paul really did the wave. I thought Mr. Napier is waving for Paul. Yeah. That's unusual. Okay, I have a wave. Mr. Olivier is recognized.
I want to agree with Natalie. We need to support this resolution and roll forward this millage because of the additional expenses and stuff like in the health unit. Thank you, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Councilman Olivier reserves. Anyone else? Hearing no other discussion. Roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. I'm sorry. Councilman James Trahan is in. Okay, so everyone except for Mr. Trahan is in favor. James Trahan, I'm sorry. Let me clarify that for the record. Voting in the affirmative is everyone except for James Trahan, the Lone Ranger, Mr. Trahan. That motion carries. Moving on to summary number 5115, introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk? 5114, I'm sorry. Introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for drainage facilities, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 3.94 mills for 2021.
Do I have a motion? A motion by Councilman Marty Trahan and a second by Councilman Lloyd Brown. Mr. Trahan. Mr. Trahan waves. Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown waves. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Now moving on to summary number 5115. Introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance setting forth and establishing the property millage for drainage facilities, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at the adjusted rate of 3.94 mills and authorizing an increase of said rate to 4.00 mills to be levied for 2021.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Marty Trahan and a second by Councilman Michael Landry. Mr. Trahan.
Yes. I'm asking y'all to support this little increase in millage. for the drainage projects each of us have. And we operating with less than 20 people at the board. So I think we need every dollar we can get in drainage to where we can move forward a little bit and get this done. I appreciate y'all all to support it. Thank you.
Councilman Trahon yields back. Councilman Landry?
I hope that we can all support this. I think we had a meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago that this parish flooding. So hopefully everybody can see the need for this, and we need to move forward with it. Thank you.
Mr. Landry yields back. Councilman Chad Montran is recognized.
I want to echo what Marty and Michael saying. We still have some drainage issues, and we're working with limited number of employees. You know, it's to the point where maybe we need to look into considering contracting some of this drainage work out to get it done. Every time we get a rainstorm, it brings up the problem with drainage. Other than that, we sit idle. We're not getting anything done. Sitting on our hands as usual. So any little bit we can do would help. So I'd appreciate any support.
Mr. Montran, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Montran reserves. Councilman Olivier is recognized.
I agree with my colleagues on rolling forward this millage. It's going to bring in about an additional $38,000 for drainage. I'm sure everybody agreed that we could probably use another roadside crew digging ditches in this parish, because we're so far behind on the amount of work that needs to be done. We need to improve that department, very much so. So I will be supporting this resolution.
Good. Councilman Olivier reserves. Anyone else? Hearing none. Roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Just for the record, I imagine there's going to be a no vote. Those voting in the affirmative, raise your hands. I have Mr. Brown, Mr. Pollard, Mr. Michael Landry, Mr. Paul Landry, Mr. Brad Davis. Voting yea. You voting in favor?
In favor to raise it.
Correct. Mr. Trahon,
Yeah.
Marty Trahon, and then Mr. Montran and Mr. Olivier. Those voting in opposition, I have Mr. Rossonnet, Mr. Napier, Goshasan, Broussard. Anyone else? I think this one might pass, huh? It's only. Oh, okay. You're right. That motion fails. Laney, you got that? Say again, Mr.
The noes were.
Yeah, it's going to be 9-4.
The noes were Scott Ronsonet, Brian Napier, Warren Goshasan, and Natalie Broussard?
Correct.
Okay.
So 9 in favor, correct, and then 4 opposed. Is that correct, Laney?
I only have 8 in favor.
Okay, let's try this again. Those in favor, raise your hands, please, just for the record.
Is Mr. Trahon, because you said Mr. Trahon and then you said Marty Trahon.
Okay.
Marty.
This, again, members, eventually we got to get back to roll call on these machines right here. This is very confusing, all right? Mr. Brown is in favor, Mr. Pollard, Mr. Michael Landry, Mr. Paul Landry, Mr. Brad Davis, Mr. Marty Trahon, Mr. James Trahon, Mr. Montran, and Mr. Olivier. Those opposed, I have Mr. Napier, Mr. Rossonnet, Mr. Goshasan, Ms. Broussard. Is there anyone else? Did I miss anyone? So, to clarify, Laney, we have 9 votes in favor, correct?
Yes.
And 4 votes opposed.
Right.
The motion fails. Moving on to summary number 5116, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
An ordinance setting forth and establishing a property millage for the public library system, which is levied on all taxable property in the parish at a rate of 0.22 mils for 2021.
I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Broussard. Mr. Brown.
Kim, this is the last year for this?
Yes, sir. Last year for the levy, we'll pay off the debt March 1st of next year.
Okay. Hope everybody supports this.
Point taken, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown yields back. Anyone else? Ms. Broussard?
Wait.
Hearing no other discussion, those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to resolutions introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 78, introduced by the Regional Planning Commission. Madam Clerk.
A resolution granting preliminary plat approval to a partition of property belonging to Kevin M. and Brian J. Provost, located at Chopeak Road, to create 2 tracts designated as Track 2A and Track 2B, District 9, subject to compliance with Planning Commission Staff Report PC 2021-0008, all as reviewed and recommended by the Iberia Parish Regional Planning Commission.
I have a motion by Councilman Scott Rossany and a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Mr. Rossany. Mr. Rossany raised. Mr. Napier.
I don't know if you might want to bring.
Yes, certainly. Mr. Reed, if you can step to the
Reed,
podium.
Just to, hear from.
Answer Mr. Napier's questions.
What questions you got, Mr. Bryan?
I just want to make sure that the Planning Commission is all on board.
Yeah, this case and the next one, they're both very simple. It's the same 2 brothers. From what I understand, they inherited some property, so they own the entire properties together, but they want to divide them so that one brother owns this portion, the other brother owns the next portion.
Are there any questions for Mr. Boudreaux? Hearing no discussion on this agenda item, I ask for roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 79, introduced by the Regional Planning Commission. Madam Clerk.
A resolution granting preliminary plat approval to a partition of property belonging to Kevin M. and Brian J. Provost, located at Lake Dotreve Road, to create 2 tracts designated as Tract 1 and Tract 2, District 9, subject to compliance with Planning Commission Staff Report PC 2021-0009, all as reviewed and recommended by the Iberia Parish Regional Planning Commission.
I have a motion by Councilman Scott Rossany, a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Mr. Rossany? Good.
Oh, they gated? Oh, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Mr. Rossany waves. Mr. Napier?
Reed,
it's the same story, yeah.
I'm good.
Mr. Napier waves.
Thank you,
members,
Reed.
any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition. The ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously.
Move to adjourn.
If I can, moving on to ordinances introduced for publication. There are none. I'll take that motion by Councilwoman Broussard and a second by Councilman Napier. Any discussion on the roll call to adjourn? Hearing none. Roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. We are now adjourned.